Hello, everybody, and happy Monday. We're so happy to be here with you guys. And you know what today is? It is day 2 of our interviews with our speaker summits. And we have Daisha Hanks here with us. Hey, Daisha, how are you?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on here today.
Well, guys, you know that we've had Daisha on before, and she's told us a little bit about her life. But this time, we're going to go in a little bit deeper. We'll be right back. And we're back. And Daisha, I know that we have talked before and you've been on the show and we talked about your struggles and, about everything that you've had, suicidal thoughts and stuff. But I wanted to go in a little bit deeper and talk about those struggles that you've been having. And maybe you could tell us, like, when did you first start having the struggles and when did you start becoming aware of this?
Yeah, for sure. So as far as like when I became aware of it the first time, it was actually when I was pretty young. It was around like fifth grade. So I think I was about 10 years old at the time. And I was always kind of just an overweight kid, tomboy, always dressed in boy clothes. So I kind of got bullied a lot going into like fourth and fifth grade. And around that time, I just started feeling this like really strong depressive feeling. And the first time that I remember actually like it feeling like it kind of consumes me, right? Because I feel like that's kind of what happens. We feel like these emotions kind of consume us. It was right after school. I don't know what happened, but there was something like really big that happened at school. And then when I went home, my parents were just fighting like crazy. So I just felt really like horrible inside. And I remember going into my room and I just started bawling my eyes out. Like I had this, I don't know, this tense feeling over me. And I sat there for a moment and it was almost like a out of body experience, like when you kind of just blank out for a moment. And I took this belt that I had out of my drawer, and I had bunk beds at the time, right? My sister was on top, I was at the bottom, and the bars that were right underneath the top bunk, I had tied the belt right inside of it and hooked it, and then I put my head inside of it and just dropped. And I don't know, it was like just an automatic response. I thought that was the end, but obviously it wasn't. The belt had broke at that point. But yeah, that was really the first time that I started kind of feeling those suicidal thoughts.
Wow. Well, that was a little bit more than feeling. That had to have been like a moment of real desperation for you.
Yeah.
Um, so, well, I'm glad that it didn't work.
Me too.
But let's talk a little bit about that because that was a big defining moment. Like, what was your life after that? Like, what happened the day, the week, the year after that?
Well, right after, like the moment after, the only thing that I really remember was like, I don't know, like it was just like another day, like for me, it was like always a struggle. So it felt like that was just another struggle that was happening. So afterwards, I kind of sat there for a moment. I didn't really know like what was going on or what happened because I was so young, it's such a crazy experience for such a young kid. And I just remember walking through the hall. I sat down with my family as if nothing happened and we just watched TV. And I never told my family about it afterwards.
Wow. Wow. That had to be. Yeah. And the funny thing is that at that age, it's like you said, we really don't know what's going on or how to handle it. So after that, what was your experience like the next couple of years, and when did things start to change for you?
So throughout the next couple years, it kind of got a little worse actually. Going into like middle school, I kind of tried to start changing myself. Like before, I was kind of independent. Like even though people made fun of me, I knew who I was, I knew what I liked, I wasn't going to change. But going into middle school, I started trying to be a little bit more girly. I tried to change myself so that way I could kind of fit in, as they would say. It didn't work, right? I still got bullied quite a bit. People actually started calling me a lesbian like in middle school. So like before I even really knew what was going on. So it really just kind of got worse. And then once eighth, ninth grade hit, my mom had actually left, ended up getting into prison. And that's when everything shifted a little bit. Like it got a little bit easier because my parents weren't fighting all the time. I had a little bit more independence, but things didn't really start to fully shift. And I started to kind of get rid of the emotions a little bit, right? They're still there, but started to get rid of them once I got out of high school and stumbled across personal development.
Okay. Do you mind now that we're gonna get into that if I ask you, because I know that you had to deal with those emotions somehow. And I know we talked about it a little bit in segments, but maybe like explain to everyone, like, how did you deal with your emotions then so that we could talk about how you deal with them now?
So how I was dealing with them before, honestly wasn't the correct way. I would get really, really angry. Like we were talking about right before we got on this broadcast, you kind of have to have that release, right? And the only way that I felt I could release things was either by hurting myself or getting super angry and putting the blame on someone else. So when I would get angry as a kid, like I would say, "Oh, it's my parents' fault. Oh, it's my mom's fault. That's why she's in prison. It's all her fault that I'm like this." Or I would get super angry and go and punch a wall, and my hand would be hurting. Or I started cutting at one point. So that's kind of how I handled it while I was a kid. Not what I would recommend by any means.
No, no, no. But that's why I wanted to talk about it, because the way that energy works in the body is it doesn't disappear, it doesn't dissipate, right? So it has to go somewhere. We store it in our chakras, and so it has to
Yeah,
go out some way. So I figured that there was some form of behavior or something, because usually the way it works is two ways: either we hurt ourselves or we hurt others. You know,
right.
because it has to
Exactly.
go somewhere. If we're not putting it out in a healthy, productive way, it's gonna come out, like you said, in anger and behavior and harm. Okay, so now we're here. So how did you stumble onto personal development? That's the first thing, because let's see how that
Kind
happened.
of a crazy story. So at the time, me and my now wife, we were just dating at the time. We were living in this house with no running water. And the reason why, I mean, we couldn't afford to live anywhere else. So she was the only one working at the time. I was trying to get my business up and going online, and we were just struggling. Like I was going through a really difficult time. I felt like a failure. I felt like my parents were right that I wasn't going to succeed because I didn't graduate high school, and I was just going through a hard time. So I was on the phone with my mentor at the time, and he's like, "Daisha, you should listen to this video." I'm like, "What is this video? It's 3 hours long." He's like, "It's Tony Robbins. You should really watch it. It's a full seminar of his." I'm like, "I'm not going to sit down for 3 hours and watch something. Like, I don't even have TV. I have to watch it on my little phone. There's no way I'm going to do this." But I really I was desperate. I had to do something
Right.
to try to make some more money. So I was like, you know what? Fine, I'll just watch it. So I pressed play. The first 10 minutes just got me hooked. I mean, I was just sucked in because it was different, like I was told before, like life is always happening to you. But then Tony Robbins was saying the opposite. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And that's when I kind of started stumbling across it. I ended up watching the full 3 hour video. And that's actually kind of what got me started on doing these type of videos as well.
Isn't it interesting how that's like a similar story for me? Like when I heard Tony Robbins say that, and you know what it is? That I love it, because when you start going to personal development, you can't use the excuses anymore, right? Like you can't do it anymore. Like, how for how long I blame my parents. Like it's like, okay, well, I moved out at 25, 26. So really? Like how
To be
much
honest, I kind of felt like I was being born again, like a little kid. You know how you don't know better for something, but then all of a sudden now you know better, so you know you can't do the bad thing anymore.
exactly, exactly. And so and then it's not only that, but when you say something like that, like something's happening for me, and then you're like, okay, but that felt really shitty. Like
Yeah.
it like forces you to think, okay, well, okay, so if it's happening for me, then it forces you to find the lesson, because now you're like, okay, well, if this is happening for me, then I got to figure it out. So
Right.
something as simple as that, like, can change your life.
They
It's
can.
crazy. It can totally change your life. So then what happened then? Like, what steps did you start taking, and what did you start seeing in your manifested reality? Like, what started happening?
Well, the first thing that really changed was actually my emotions. Like I was expecting like a physical thing to change, and I think that's where people kind of go is they look for, oh, well, I should be making more money now that I'm on the path of personal development. But for me, it was more of my own emotions. Like before, whenever my wife would come home, I would feel depressed. I would feel angry with myself because she was the only one working and taking care of us, and we were still living in a house with no running water. We were in a shitty situation. But after I ended up watching that, like she came home, and I just felt excited. It was a different feeling than I had had in a long time. And I think that's the quickest thing that started to change. After that, because I was already kind of in more of a positive mood, I started attracting more things to me. We got a little bit more income coming in. And then I ended up moving out of that place into a different state. And yeah, rest is kind of history. Now we're here.
Well, and I know you were saying that you still face hard times, and I know we've been talking about it, and we talk about it before. Like, so I know that, in particular, this week's been really hard for you. What would you say would be the difference, like when you have a week like this? Because I want whoever's listening to it, in particular young people, to understand that you're gonna have hard times. Like, that's a part of life. It's just the challenges. you know, and how you really handle them. So I would say right now, like, what would be the main thing that you would say is the difference from now than then?
I would say how I deal with things, and kind of the result of what comes out of it after. So like when I was younger, like if I was going through a hard time and it was like a week, it's like a whole entire week where I had this hard time, the following week would also be shit too, right? Like it wasn't just that week. Like I would be fully consumed. I would be angry. I would have hurt myself or ruined some type of relationship throughout that week. And then afterwards, I would be depressed for the entire week because I just messed up that last week. But now whenever I'm going through those hard times, it's a lot shorter of a period. Like right before we were on the call, like I felt like I was kind of going through a hard time, but as soon as we went, like I'm fine now, right? Like things are good. So it's a lot quicker now. And instead of me being angry and trying to focus that energy on hurting someone else or myself, what I try to do is try to look for a solution, which actually helps me grow. So yes, I still go through hard times, but I'm always growing from the experience instead of going backwards like I was before.
No, but you said a mouthful because that is no, it is so true, and I know this from personal experience. Like it doesn't matter what we do, whether it's punching a wall or like drinking or doing drugs or going out and partying all night or just like sleeping with strangers, whatever it is that we do, or gambling, uh, we don't realize that, or we not only like participating in behavior that's going to affect us, that's really not positive for us, but then it's the consequences.
Yep.
Because either whatever you did, if you gambled, you just wasted away your money. So now you're going to be upset about that. If you went on a binge, if you punched a wall, if you hurt somebody's feelings, now you have
Yeah.
to pay for those consequences. And on top of that, what you said, it's about time too and your personal energy, because now you feel like crap for longer, because now you feel like crap because you already felt like crap. Now you
Yeah.
feel like crap because you did all this shit. And now you have to fix, and now you feel like even bigger crap. So
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest shift was like when I was younger, I was always looking for, okay, how can I numb this pain now? Right? Like, okay, feeling, now I got to numb it. Now it's like, okay, I'm feeling pain. How can I grow from this? How can I get better at this? How can I help someone get past these times now? So,
yeah, and that's a really important point that you hit, because it's about the escape.
yeah,
Because life sometimes can feel, because I felt it like this week too. Sometimes it can feel like, oh my God, it's just so hard. Like why even try, right? And so we
right.
escape, and we just want to escape, escape, escape. But what happens is what you said, when you're seeking that, then you're not really fixing a solution. You're not finding a solution or fixing anything, is what I meant to say. And
Exactly.
once you're done with whatever it is, you're right back to where you were. On contrary to what you said, now that you have things set in place, now that you have a purpose, then it changes the whole outlook, because you have something to look forward to. And I
Yeah.
have to say, as humans, and I say this all the time, we're creatures that, one, we need socialization, we need communication, we need relationships, we need to bond on a deeper level. That is like one of the most important things. It's one of our basic needs, but it's one of our reasons for existence as human beings.
Yeah.
And the second thing is that we need to grow. And I know that you guys know this, when you like buy a house, buy a car, get a job, do this. It's the natural instinct to say, what's next? We also need that for our spiritual and our mental growth. If we are not growing, we're stagnant, and we might not be aware, but that emptiness, that sadness, that searching for something that we have going on, it all stems from that.
And I think the focus really shifted. Like once my mindset started shifting, like my focus was shifting. Instead of thinking that I had to have something physical to make me happy or relying on physical things, I started realizing like happiness, what it is that you want, is really within yourself. Like the outside world could look like total crap, but you could still be happy with inside, and vice versa.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to the whole of us talking that life is like a video game. And I feel like we're in this experience, and we get, because think about it, as spirit, we're like, okay, well, we want to come into these human bodies and see what we're capable of creating, in this world of senses, right? But then the whole trick of the game is that when you come into these bodies, you forget that you're spirit. You're so overwhelmed by your senses that you forget, what you're here to do. So it's that whole, coming back to really who we are, to finding our highest selves. It's great. I'm glad that you're on this journey, and that we connected, and that we're doing this summit together. And so, talking about the summit, I wanted to ask you, why is it that you decided to do it? Like, What motivated you to participate in it with me?
Well, really, it wasn't. I think the biggest thing was you, honestly. Like when you had reached out to me, you were like, Daisha, like, I have this project. I really want to be able to help teens, young adults that are going through those same type of struggles that you're going through. Like, it just hit me. Like that's exactly what I needed when I was a teenager. That's exactly what I needed when I was in my 20s, 19 years old. Like, if I would have just had some type of program, some type of summit like we're doing that could tell me, like, holy crap, I'm not alone. And these are steps that I can take to actually get through this problem instead of just dealing with the problem like people are telling us to do. It just gave me chills. Like I'm getting chills right now. Like that's the whole thing. I mean, just your passion that you had, the drive to be able to help other people. I figured it would be the perfect opportunity and platform for me to be able to help in that same type of thing.
Well, I'm glad that you feel that way, and I'm so proud of our project. And for those of you who haven't had the opportunity to go to our page and visit and see what it's about, we're going to play a little short video so you guys can see it. And we hope that you join us at the Teen Warrior Summit. And if anything, come join us at our page. We have all the speakers there. We're putting content in all the time, and we'd love to hang out with you. So here's a little bit about our summit.
The Teen Warrior Summit was created out of the desire to have the much needed discussions when it comes to teens. So many teens now are dealing with depression, anxiety, negative self-talk, suicidal thoughts, and even addiction. They've become addicted to technology, smartphones, porn, video games, social media, and even drugs. We aim to arm teens with the tools needed so they can be their own superheroes in life. The 5 elements of a superhero are confidence, courage, commitment, control, and purpose. That is what we are going to be teaching you inside of the Teen Warrior Summit.
All
I
right,
love
guys.
that video.
Right. It was a lot of fun. Well, Daisha, thanks so much for hanging out and for doing the interview. And thank you so much for being so honest.
Yeah, of course. I hope you guys all have a great day. And remember, you're not alone in this process. If you ever need someone to talk to, need some extra help, reach out to one of us, reach out to a good family member because you're not alone.
All right. And I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and we will see you guys soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.